Ishmael speaks of days long forgotten, before declarations of independence or tear-stained cotton, before concentration camps and the broken backs of railroad workers, before the bubonic plague or AIDS first surfaced, before we became an amnesiac society, stuck in our ways and filled with anxiety. See, we have forgotten, labeled it prehistory. Thousands of years of living outlined only in chapter 3, as opposed to being at least 3 chapters. We live in the after, never stop to question the before, but I assure you such a time existed. There was such a day when we lived free of this myth that there is one right way, and people were not afraid to live differently, where it was not how it was done, but the fact that it worked that matters. Somewhere between the Fertile Crescent and the Industrial Revolution, this belief was shattered and we were left with splinters which, left untreated, have infected our point of view. Nature was once our brother. Now it is something that we abuse, something that we assume was placed on earth solely for our use. From the trees to the land to the water to the food, it was only a matter of time before people became products too. See, we watch this happen to plants, animals, and insects, smug from a distance, not realizing we would be next. But the earth was here before the first man took his first step, was created to maintain balance, so it has to self-correct. Remind us of our place here and how we all intersect. If beef is what I eat, then the cow and I connect, and that deserves respect. It is cause and effect and understanding that everything gives and takes. And that is how it must be for this earth to rotate. Our tomorrows are dwindling beneath the weight of our waste because we're stealing the food off of our brother's plates, and not out of necessity, but so he can't have a taste. Because the goal is to control and to own the right way, but we've yet to find a way to prevent a hurricane or to stabilize LA when this earth begins to quake. Therefore, our fatal mistake has been to hoard and recreate that which nature did not intend. We've begun the process of processing foods. Now you intake compounds that don't break down when you chew, get stuck to your heart like gum to a shoe. Now you've become a patient and medication is through the roof. Dependency sets in because your cure is stored away in a test tube next to your food. And perhaps we could all just eat better. But the cost is too high for those with low cash flows to afford every night, especially with such limited options. I've yet to see a Trader Joe's in Compton or a farmer's market in Nickerson Gardens, so pardon me. I have a tendency to care deeply the way we all used to. I have a tendency to give a damn, though encouraged not to. And I understand this can be an inconvenient truth. It could be hard to see your part in how you contribute to this cycle of deficit that we now represent. So let me preface it by saying this was not the intent, but here is where we are. It's like being in a car that is heading south when your destination is north. You could choose to turn around or you could choose to stay that course. But only one of those decisions will bring you to where you need to be. So here is the question that we must ask as human beings. Are we prepared to repair our relationship with nature, or will we continue to spend our life destroying things? So I'm going to share a quick story with you about a little bit of what inspired the piece that I just shared with you. When I was a kid, I did what many kids do, and I created this entire world for myself. And in this world, everything was alive. My stuffed animals would walk around on their own, and we'd have these great conversations, and they'd share their thoughts and feelings. It was awesome. My sister thought I was weird. My parents, they looked the other way because, at least I was well behaved. I went to school, I got good grades, I made friends. But it was behind my bedroom door that I could engage the abnormal and create the extraordinary. It was there that I felt the most me and that I could do big things. Then it was time to grow up. And like most of us, I had to leave my world behind in exchange for the real world, which far too often buries the extraordinary. Now, I have to admit, I've had a difficult time with being a grown-up. I really hate wearing shoes. And being inside of a building away from the sun for 8 hours just feels sad. But we are taught to believe that these are just normal growing pains. But nothing felt normal about it. I was starting to miss that connection to something big. I felt like a tree that had no roots. So I started to ask myself questions, and the more I dug at who I was and what was that connection that I was missing, the more I asked questions like, if my ancestors were never brought here as slaves, what would I eat? What would my spiritual practice be? What would community look like and education? What would a wedding look like? These questions just started to gnaw at me, and I became more and more restless. You see, African American history is often told as though it began with slavery. But nothing could be further from the truth. There is more to that story. But what I was missing was a way back to my roots, a way to talk to my ancestors and get those missing pieces. So in my search to find a way back, I stumbled across the opportunity to go to a yoga retreat in Sedona. I packed my bags impulsively, said I was going to leave, and headed for the desert to find this thing, only to find myself surrounded by 14 other black women who were also restless and searching for something. Imagine our surprise when we found it, while playing and laughing, wearing all white in this beautiful river. Now, I know we don't often see images of black women playing and laughing, but that day, we defied all the stereotypes. And I looked up, and I had a tribe. We offered the river honey and fresh jasmine, and in exchange, she allowed us to leave as freer versions of ourselves. And I knew that my ancestors were there that day, but even more so, I left with the peace of knowing that they had never left me. So I returned to my urban life after this awakening with a new thirst for nature. I began to seek it at every single opportunity to talk and commune with my ancestors. I started talking to plants and animals the way I had those stuffed animals all those years ago in my bedroom, and I finally realized what they were trying to teach me then. My ancestors were trying to tell me that they were here. If I were willing to see them in the bend of a raven's wing, or the fragility of a blade of grass, or just willing to realize that Mother Earth is alive. Efforts to heal the roots of displaced peoples, oppressed peoples, including the intentional disconnection of indigenous people from their native land and their traditions, has to begin with a return to nature. Find a stream of moving water and step in. Spend at least an hour every day beneath the sun. Plant your feet into the earth as frequently as possible, and while you are there, plant a seed. Gather together, wear white, invite your ancestors, bring honey, don't be afraid to get wet, but more than anything, remember, our ancestors have never left us. They are always listening and willing to reach out to us if we are willing to step out into the grass and look up to the sun. Thank you.